Well, Joseph, here we are. I'm Helen Lannaghan. I'm a co-director of the London International Mime Festival. And this is Joseph Seelig. And Joseph Seelig, you started this festival.
I did. I started it in 1977, it's a long time ago, and Helen, who's very beautifully introduced herself, joined me in 1987. So for the first 10 years, I was doing it on my own, very exhausting, and it all changed and got a lot better when Helen came along. And it started when I was working at the Cockpit Theatre in London, still exists. It was then a very lively fringe theatre. We had all sorts of weird and wonderful shows there. And one of the artists who we liked a lot, somebody called Nola Ray, who is a fantastic mime clown. She still performs. And it was really at her urging and instigation that the Mime Festival started. We really wanted to get bigger audiences for her. We wanted to get a bigger profile for the theatre. And having a festival just seems a good way to do it. If you have a festival, it's much easier to get press interest than if you're just doing something for 1 or 2 nights. We presented work which was not in the mainstream and which was not driven by text. No plays, no dance, but all sorts of weird and wonderful theatre which, as soon as it became part of the mainstream, we'd move on and programme different things, and that's what we still do.
Absolutely, and I was in the audience of some of those early year festivals. And it was incredibly inspiring and exciting. It had a real buzz, and I think we've actually kept that all through the years. There is something very special about not just the audiences and the work, it's just there is that sense of occasion, I think, going to one of the Mime Festival shows. But we hadn't at that stage broken into sort of the bigger venues, the South Bank Central, the Barbican, places like that came later, because those people who used to come to the festival and were fans of the work, they were sort of fairly junior in their roles of management at that time. And of course, they have grown with us. So now they run big art centres, which is fantastic because they give a home to the work, don't they? Yeah. And they enable us to do all sorts of wonderful things, sort of, helping companies to grow, to develop, and to put their work on more major stages than they could otherwise lever themselves.
Then it became, yes, a passion. It had its own impetus. Artists took an interest in it, wanted to be in it, other venues wanted to be part of its organisation. So it drove itself to a certain extent.
I think the thing is, the festival is always it's the sum of its parts, not the individual shows. People generally haven't heard of any of the shows and they come to see them. So it's all a bit of a pick and mix. It's just lovely and fresh and exciting. I mean, those early years of the festival, there were mime classes, the City Lit, and Desmond Jones had his mime classes, and the people studying mime were a really, really interesting bunch. They were the people who were in the early years of doing videos for music. A lot of them were doing all sorts of other things, but there was this passion for mime, and they're just a really lovely bunch of people. And it's been a privilege really to work with such a fantastic group of performers, who've been absolutely wonderful, brilliant, inspiring people.
They not only perform their own work, they devise it, they create it, they design it usually. They are very special. So it's been a great privilege and learning experience, to meet these people. Well, look, I think it's important to say that our title is historic. And we don't want to mislead anybody, but there's very little mime in the festival, or mime in the sense that most people know it. Yes, it's the start of the theatre year, and it's a festival of contemporary visual theatre. So, I'll be completely honest with you, most people have this sort of preconception about mime. I have absolutely no idea why. Maybe they saw somebody bad with a white face in Covent Garden, but if you've ever seen Marcel Marceau, which most people now probably haven't, it's an extraordinary art form, but that forms a minuscule part of our programme. We have all sorts of work, whether it's animation, extreme dance, clown theatre, performance art, movement theatre, all these different styles of theatre which are not reliant on text and which are not part of the mainstream.
Well, in 1986, and I've been a big fan of the festival, and Joe said, why don't you come and work with me? Because actually he was thinking of stopping. So in theory, the festival might have finished in 1986. That might have been the last one.
Would you agree with people who said that I've ruined your career, that I've held you back, that you could have been some...
Yeah, people did say that.
They did, but nonsense, isn't it? Nonsense.
Yeah. I think people miss the point. It's a really sort of beautiful... I feel like the curator and, you know, minder of something really rather precious and different. It's a calling. What can I tell you? It's not for the money, it's for the art. You know, we don't know who this audience is that comes to the Mime Festival. You know, it's quite a unique audience, which I think, certainly for some of the bigger venues, because we bring a very diverse audience, you know, that's really something that is fantastic about the work. It really, people are bringing now their grandchildren. People who came to those first festivals bring their grandchildren, and that's lovely, isn't it? I mean, you know, hard to swallow.
We have got a lot in the festival that's, well, everything is in the festival to excite them and interest them and attract them. From Aurélien Bory at the Barbican, from the Great British Young Circus Company, barely methodical troupe at the Peacock, Gandini juggling at Sadler's Wells, the Lillian Bayliss Theatre.
I mean, I think that's quite an interesting lead-in to talking about the programme for 2022, which is a mainly British programme this year. We've got 15 live productions, of which 13 are from the UK. UK-based artists, and we just want people to come back and really enjoy this wonderful work. You know, it's very special, and we're just thrilled to be back live again. So yeah, fingers crossed. Here goes for January 2022.